Welcome back to the Business of Compliance podcast. Today, I really just wanted to talk a little bit about a common question I'm getting as I interact with the market, and that is, what's the difference between the EU Act and ISO 42001? Honestly, though both standards are intended to promote the same activities, the same behaviors in the market, they approach that promotion in fundamentally different ways. First and foremost, the EU Act, which I'll just call the AI Act, is regulation. And once that regulation is finalized and goes into enforcement, adherence to the regulation is absolutely required. There are no ifs, ands, or buts. That regulation focuses largely on approaching evaluation of AI tools from a risk-based perspective. That is, as we think about risk in use of AI tools, the AI Act really points out four different tiers. You'll commonly see a pyramid used to represent this. At the top of the pyramid, we have what are considered to be prohibited risk or prohibited use AI tools. Those tools, from the day the Act goes into enforcement, will be prohibited. So it's named well. So no longer available for use. The remaining levels of risk, there will be a little bit of a ramp, a little bit of a runway to allow organizations to not only identify where that risk exists in their environment, but also to allow those organizations to employ controls to mitigate some of the risk and ensure that their users are well informed. Now, as we think about risks from the perspective of the AI Act, largely we're really going to think of risk in three buckets, the three driving forces: privacy, explainability, and bias. Privacy in ensuring that user data remains private and can't be aggregated to infer anything about users of the system that it shouldn't be able to infer. Explainability, it is so critical that as we think about the traditional input, processing, and output, the black box, the algorithms themselves, it's so important that the way the tools, the AI tools, are making decisions through those algorithms, that there is some element of explainability so that on the back end of a decision that's being made automatically, through the use of automated algorithms, we can explain how an organization got to a certain conclusion. And then lastly, in those outputs, again, we think input, processing, out through the algorithm. In those outputs, if there is an element of bias, we need to have controls in place to first of all identify and then mitigate that bias, backfeed our findings to ensure that we no longer produce biased outputs. Again, the EU Act, a requirement. It will apply to all systems originating within the EU or serving citizens within the EU. So though it's called the EU Act, it's essentially going to be a global standard. Now, second concept, ISO 42001. ISO 42001 is a third-party standard and is a really good idea, but not required. There is no regulation today that requires the use of ISO 42001. However, I can tell you, in my opinion, use of ISO 42001, particularly in this interim period where the AI Act has no clean definitions, no clean prescriptions, no clean guidance on how to provide assurance to customers, ISO 42001 is a tool of infinite utility in providing that assurance. ISO 42001 is a tool that causes assessors to step into your environment and evaluate your AI management system, what we just call AIMS at this point, the acronym AI Management System. Now, as assessors evaluate your AI management system, they're concerned about risk. They're concerned about the impact of the automated algorithms that you're employing in your environment. But they're also thinking as much about your organizational context. That's the perspective from which you are using AI to either deliver services or to create some value internally. So ISO 42001 employs three different organizational contexts. One or all of these might apply to your organization. ISO 42001 says your organization could be employing AI as a provider. You could be an organization like Microsoft. You could be an organization like OpenAI, like Google, who are actually providing models for general consumption by the public. The next layer down, ISO 42001 labels AI developers. These are organizations that will take those models from providers generally, add some sort of secret sauce to then turn around and sell as a product those services to downstream users, which leads us to the last organizational profile, which is users. By and large, these are going to be people that are consuming AI tools, like users of ChatGPT, like users of Gemini, to perform some function, some daily task. Now, as an entity, as an organization, preparing to undergo either a readiness assessment or a certification for ISO 42001, it is imperative you get help. Many of the concepts included in ISO 42001 will be fundamentally new for you, even if you already have management systems in place. Your quality management system via ISO 9001, your ISMS via ISO 27001, your PIMS via ISO 27701. Those are all incredible first steps, but will not ensure that you're ready to withstand an audit and earn certification for ISO 42001. New concepts that you absolutely have to be prepared for. And this is why readiness becomes an important concern, center around your AI risk assessment, that is scoping of the systems that are delivering AI to one of those three organizational roles that we discussed, and your AI impact assessment. That is considering the risk and considering how you're using the tools, what will be the impacts to not only internal stakeholders, but also external stakeholders should something go wrong. Again, do not approach either of these standards lightly, but they must be approached. Neither of these things is going to go away near term, and preparing your organization today is the best thing that you can do to ensure your long-term success.